Welcome back to Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast presented by Xenopucks. Before we really get the show started today, I just want to take a moment and mention the passings of Chris Simon and Konstantin Koltsov, who both took their own lives in the past few days. This sport, being as physical and as violent as it is, can have long-term effects on the brain with all the hits and all the fighting that happens in the sport. Recently the league's done a better job of promoting mental health awareness and all that, and I think society as a whole has gotten better at it. But anybody that's having these thoughts of any kind, it's very important that you seek help, talk with your friends, your family, a therapist, whatever, because this planet is much better off with you still on it than it is with you off of it. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's kind of a somber note. It's still so fresh, but it's definitely worth mentioning. And again, please get help if you're ever experiencing any of these kinds of thoughts.
I echo that as well, and I couldn't have said it any better. Anybody who does know me knows that I'm a big advocate for that myself, as I've been through it. So if you need help, get help. Somebody's willing to listen, and somebody's always willing to help. So don't let that go untreated, please.
All right, we're gonna turn the page quickly here because we have a couple of very bright spots of this show today. The first one is that it's our first Wednesday show, so that's really exciting. We talked about. Sorry to fix my mic. Oh, hang on, stand by. The whole thing just shifted.
Mine was doing that to me earlier when I was setting up for the show.
Yeah, I know. Mine's all jacked up here. I'm gonna mute my mic. Andrew, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what day it is today?
It's Wednesday, my dudes.
What's special about this date on the calendar, you idiot?
Brian wants me to announce that it is my birthday. So, with that being said, it's my birthday. So, cheers to that, and cheers to all of you watching. Oh, that's a cold beer.
Okay, I'm hoping I don't have any more technical difficulties here. The whole arm started sliding off the table. I'm like,
I just want you to know that I'm not editing that out either. I'm
okay.
Definitely leaving that in.
That's okay. That's totally fine. I wish you had picked up on my cue to talk about your birthday and not what day of the week it is.
No, I did. I was just being a piece of shit.
Oh, imagine that. So, speaking of the birthday boy, I believe you have. You want to take a second here and tell us about our sponsor?
I suppose I can do that. They're really nice people, so they'd probably appreciate that. As always, the show is presented to you by Xenopucks. I don't know why I'm holding that up to the camera like you're going to be able to read it, because it's kind of grainy. The camera, not the puck. But Xenopucks is a company that makes top-tier off-ice practice pucks, so you can practice your stick handling, your shots, your movements, anything you want to do. I would not recommend playing a game with this, though, because it is not made of rubber. I'm not really sure what this thing's actually made of, but it hurts like hell. But the purpose of the puck is, like I said, it's an off-ice practice puck, so you can use it on any off-ice surface, almost any off-ice surface, concrete, asphalt, carpet, tile, hardwood floors. Maybe don't use it on hardwood floors, at least not while your wife is home. But
or parents.
Yeah, or parents. I don't really think we have too many kids listening to this show. But you never know. I spoke with the guys over at Xenopucks, and they tried it on turf and the dirt on a baseball diamond. They said it worked great. So head over to xenopucks.com right now. Check out their website. Give them a follow on Instagram at Xenopucks. Get yourself a puck and get yourself some merch. They got some pretty nice merch on their website as well, too. So head on over there. Tell them the Matusi boys sent you and see what you can find.
Awesome. Want to jump to the next part of our show real quick and talk about the collegiate women's Final Four, the Frozen Four, as they call it. Over the last weekend, there was a couple of really good games. There's a great game between Clarkson and University of Minnesota that ended with a Clarkson victory in the fourth overtime period. So congratulations to Clarkson on moving into the Final Four, and they're going to go up against a really good Ohio State team that's seeded number one. Ohio State won 9-0 over the weekend. So got the ladies' tourney, the Final Four here is really looking good. Wisconsin's got a great program. They've really stepped it up. Both the men's and women's teams did really well this year. And Wisconsin will go up against Colgate. So Clarkson will play Ohio State on Friday, and Wisconsin will play Colgate on Friday. And the winners of those two games will face each other in the final on Sunday.
Should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, for me, on Wisconsin. I know some people are like, "Oh, don't you live in Ohio?" I sure do. Born and raised in Wisconsin, though, baby. Go Badgers.
Yep. So I'm rooting for the Lady Badgers to get it done too. I would have liked it to be the Gophers, obviously, but it is what it is. The men's team will still get a crack at it in the men's collegiate tournament, but I believe they're actually making the selections for that this afternoon. So maybe on Sunday's program we'll preview that. There's a lot of really good teams that are going to make this tournament this year, and I'm really excited for it. But we'll address that once we see the actual bracket, because right now we just don't know yet. It's as simple as that. So good luck to all four of those ladies teams this weekend, and I'm sure we'll do some kind of preview for the championship game on our Sunday show, or we'll just wait till the game's done and congratulate the winner afterwards.
Absolutely, I'm down for either one. So,
all right, now I want to jump to Wayne Simmons, in his heyday, probably the best power forward in the league, really the true definition of a power forward. I mean, he was an absolute menace physically. He could throw big hits, he could fight, and he could score really well. Most people know him from his big days in Philly, but a lot of people also remember him from his time in LA, as that's where he was drafted, and he kind of made a name for himself. And ultimately, it kind of sucked the way it worked out for him, because the year after he gets traded from LA to Philly, Mike Richards goes the other way to LA, and LA wins the cup the next year and 2 years after that as well. So unfortunately, no championships to Wayne's resume, but I don't think that takes too much away from his probable Hall of Fame career. I mean, again, no championships, no scoring titles, nothing crazy, but he was about effective as a power forward can be for the position. In his day, there was a lot of the big guys. There was him, there was Lucic, there's Hossa, guys that are really strong on the puck and can still score. Hossa wasn't really a fighter like Lucic and Simmons were, but definitely a power forward by every definition of the word.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, by no means is he a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I do absolutely think that he is Hall of Fame worthy for sure. And what, like you said, you could argue, no championships, no scoring titles. He's still one of the best power forwards to play the game. And he was a brawler, man. That dude was not afraid to drop he lived for it. Yeah. And I mean, people feared him. He was a very heavy presence on the ice. And I do think it's cool that he's retiring a Flyer, since that's where he did spend most of his career.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat, and I'm happy for him. And I'm really hoping. I watched him on trade deadline day. He was on TSN Trade Center, and I thought him as an analyst was incredible. So I really hope he goes that route, because I wouldn't mind watching him either.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. I always like when players jump right from playing to being an analyst. I really hope he does that full time and makes that transition. I really like how Carter Hutton sounded on the Daily Faceoff. I listened to their trade deadline special. Really like how he sounded. I'm a huge fan of the Minnesota Wild's color commentator Ryan Carter, who was also a pretty strong power forward in the league when he played too. He won a Stanley Cup with Anaheim, whose jersey I'm wearing. I just decided to bust out the Mighty Ducks jersey. By coincidence that they played Minnesota yesterday, but I made the decision to do this a couple days ago because I really like this jersey and I hardly ever wear it. So busted it out today.
Oh, dude, that's one of the best jerseys of all time, if you ask me. It's just, I mean, look at it.
It's a great look.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so congratulations again to Wayne Simmons on a fantastic career, and I'm sure one day he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
I sure as hell hope so. I think if he doesn't end up there, he got screwed.
I just don't see a scenario where he's not there in his first couple of years of eligibility. I don't think he'll be on the first ballot, or he even may, just depending on the candidates. But I got to imagine that he'll be in there sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to move on and talk about Dmitry Kulikov and the 2-game suspension he got for the illegal check to the head on Connor Sherry in a game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We just talked about Matt Rempe's suspension the other day. It was a 4-game suspension. It was, I would say, a little bit of a nastier hit, but neither of them were very pretty. And Kulikov has been in the league for a lot longer, so I don't know. We clown on player safety on the Department of Player Safety all the time. I mean, what's the precedent here? They were pretty similar hits as far as the nature of them. But Rempe gets twice the amount of games that Kulikov does, and Kulikov should really know better. He's been around for 10 or 12 plus years, however long he's been in the league now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and it kind of probably puts a bad taste in the mouth of Matt Rempe, because here's my logic behind it. I think with Matt Rempe, they're trying to show him he's new in the league. He's only been in a couple weeks and he's had 4 fights already. They're trying to show him, hey kid, cool your jets. Okay, you're not all that like you think you are. But with Kulikov, like you said, he knows better. So I don't agree. It puts a bad taste in the mouth of Rempe, because he's like, okay, so he did the same thing I did, but he gets a much less stricter penalty for it. Not penalty, disciplinary action.
Yeah.
So the other night I said, good job on the Department of Player Safety. Not so much this time, because, and I'm a Florida Panthers fan. That hit was absolutely unnecessary like that.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I hate those stupid. Anytime they get the chicken wing up to throw the hit, I'm like, you already know that's best case scenario, it's a penalty. Worst case scenario, it's a big suspension. I can't believe Kulikov didn't get more games for that.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by it myself. Nothing you can do about it at this point. It's been handled. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm not seeing the logic there. If you're gonna give one guy 4 games, do it across the board.
Yeah, I don't know. It's and it seems like anytime hits like this happen, we always have these conversations about precedents and stuff, but the Department of Player Safety will never set precedents. It just seems like they pick and choose what they want to give out for certain players, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, you need to, if you're going to enforce things, you need to enforce them the same across the board. You don't get to pick and choose. I mean, I guess, yeah.
I guess they do, yeah, but it's stupid. Yeah,
it shouldn't be that way.
Yep. No, I totally agree. All right. We did in the last episode, we did mention that we wanted you guys to send us in some questions. There's a few we got here. I think we have 3 that we decided we're going to read off here. So again, contact at freshicehockeypodcast.com to send your questions in. If you're watching on YouTube, you can comment your questions right in the comment section and we'll go through those as well. But we have 3 here we're going to read and answer for you today before we get going.
Yeah, and I should point out that I don't have a name for these, so we're gonna read them off.
Okay.
The first one is, it's a pretty simple question, not quite directly related to anything we talked about, just a general hockey question. Who's your favorite player and why?
Well, you're the birthday boy. Why don't you go first, and why don't we spice that up? Why don't you give me your top 3 favorite players of all time?
Top 3 favorite players of all time.
Yes.
All right. In no particular order, I'm going to start with a biased one and say Tuukka Rask. That I don't think that's any secret to anybody who knows me. I absolutely love Tuukka Rask. Patrick Kane, for sure. I've always loved Patty Kane. Not a Hawks fan, not a Red Wings fan, though I do enjoy watching him, but always love Patrick Kane. I think he's one of the best players to ever play the game. And this one, it could go a lot of ways. But I think this one's more of someone who's in the league right now. Well, I guess Patrick Kane is too, but I don't want to sound like an idiot here, but you got to love Connor McDavid, man. How do you not love him? I mean, best player of this generation right now. And there's no question about it. And if you want to argue about it, don't waste your time, because I'm not even going to entertain it.
Yeah, that's fair. I would definitely say he's probably my top 3 favorite active players for sure, mate. He's just so good.
I mean, I could throw Bobby Orr in there. And I mean, part of that, again, biased Bruins fan. You throw Marty St. Louis in there. I'll throw you know what? We'll take out Patty Kane. I'll throw Mario Lemieux in there, because I love Mario Lemieux.
That's fair. All right, I had to find 3 of my own. The first one for me is an easy choice. It's Patrice Bergeron. He exemplifies what a hockey player is. He's very mild-mannered, but he's really tough. An excellent 2-way player, probably the best 2-way forward of all time. He's a great scorer. He was useful in every situation for the Brewers. He was Bruins. He's a career 60% faceoff man. He's power play, penalty kill, top line forward. He was absolutely like crucial on their Stanley Cup run in 2011. He's just everything a good hockey player should be. Without a doubt, will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, dude.
You know, without a doubt, my favorite player of all time. I got his jersey hanging up in the closet. So yeah, I would definitely say Patrice Bergeron has got to be my favorite player of all time. Number 2 on my list, I'm going to go with Nathan MacKinnon. His progression in his career has always been so satisfying to me. He's a number 1 pick, and he was, very hyped up. And from pretty much day one, he was a great player. But it's amazing how every season it seems like he finds another level where he's kind of the same way with McDavid, but again, McDavid's just a different breed. He's a generational talent too, and he's just unlike anything we've seen. But MacKinnon always seems to find another gear, and he's so fun to watch. And I hate that he plays for my team's biggest rival, but he's such an excellent player. He's got a great shot. He's got great hands. He's among the fastest players in the league. I mean, there's nothing he doesn't do well, in my opinion. And I'm very glad to see that after all the hell all those Avalanche teams went through when they were finishing dead last, that they rebounded, built this great group, and won a cup with them. And they may even win another this year. So I would put Nathan MacKinnon number 2 on my list. And I'm going to go number 3. I'm going to pick a goalie since you picked a goalie. I'm going to go with Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't know a hockey fan that does not like Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm over the moon that he plays for the Wild, but even beforehand, all those years he had in Vegas and Pittsburgh, I mean, there's nothing to like about the guy. He's got an excellent work ethic. He's always trying to better himself. He's always in a good mood. He's always having fun, pranking his teammates, joking around. He's the ultimate teammate. He's a great hype man. He's like Bergeron. He's the kind of guy you want around your team because he's always a positive influence. And it just so happens that other than Marty Brodeur, he's probably the best goalie of all time.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say Marc-Andre Fleury is the Patrice Bergeron of goalies, no question. And to your point about Patrice Bergeron, hockey aside, Patrice Bergeron is a perfect example of what every person should strive to be. He is he's one of the greatest players of all time, and he's an incredible person. Everybody who knows him loves him and respects him. So I think that's a good list. I would put Bergeron on mine too, but I didn't want to have 2 Bruins on there because trying to pretend I'm not biased.
That's fair. Who's your favorite active player?
My favorite active player right now?
Yeah.
I would probably have to say,
I would assume this will be a Bruin because they're your favorite team.
It's not a Bruin. The guy I'm thinking of is not a Bruin. It is on one of my teams though.
It's probably Matthew Tkachuk.
It sure is, buddy.
Yeah.
I just, at this exact moment, I would say him and Sam Reinhart are probably tied just because of the seasons they're both having. They're just so fun to watch, man. I'm loving every second of it. So, but I mean, my favorite active player changes pretty regularly. I mean, it just depends on how the season's going. But right now, I would say Matthew Tkachuk or Sam Reinhart. They're both having incredible years right now.
Fair enough. I like it. All right, what's our next question?
All right, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the Seattle Kraken and how they've progressed or not since their inaugural season?
Well, I mean, their first season was really, I think they did a good job of, not trying to set these unrealistic expectations. You look at what Vegas did their first year, went to the final. That was kind of an unrealistic mark to set for any expansion team. I think that Seattle, they did a good job getting a good enough group of players to ice an NHL team of some kind of quality. They didn't want to just throw a bunch of minor leaguers and junior players out there and call it an NHL team. So they got through the first year. It was a little tough going. Last year, an excellent follow-up season. They go out, they make the playoffs, they knock off the defending Stanley Cup champions. It's a great year for the team, the fans, the organization. This year was kind of, tough sailing for them. They've had a lot of issues with the goaltending. It seems like Joey Daccord kind of has stepped in and is going to be that guy, for the future, but they've still struggled with inconsistency, which has ultimately resulted in them likely missing the playoffs this year. But it's not going to be perfect. Again, that Vegas team was such an outlier compared to every other expansion team. Everything just worked perfectly for them. Again, they went into their first season with a really outstanding goaltender, which Seattle and previous expansion teams didn't necessarily have the same luck with. So I think all things considered, Seattle's still going the right direction, even though they're probably going to miss the playoffs this year. I don't think there's any reason for them to hang their heads, because I do think last season was kind of a better season than even they expected.
I agree with you. And I want to point out, even though they're going to miss the playoffs this year, there's nothing to be ashamed about if you're a fan of that franchise. And we haven't really talked about them on the show, at least not that I can remember. So I like this question for that reason, because it gives us the opportunity to do so. But if you're a fan of the Seattle Kraken, there's nothing to be ashamed about right now. First of all, they're still selling out their games, regardless of how the team is doing. Seattle's a great market for hockey, and I think it was an excellent move putting a team there.
That arena is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. And I cannot wait to go to a game there. This. I bought my wife Seattle Kraken jersey their inaugural season because she loves the city of Seattle and she loves their colors. So I got her a jersey with our last name on the back of it. Then I can wear it too. So
yeah, it would fit you.
Yeah, no shit. Looks like somebody painted it on me. But I think overall they're performing, generally speaking, for an expansion team that's in its third year now. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed. They're performing decent for an expansion team. Like you said, Vegas set unrealistic expectations for an expansion franchise. So if you're can't talk today, man.
Spit it out.
If you live in a city that's fortunate enough to get an expansion team, you can't go into it having the expectations for them to play like Vegas did in 2017. That was a very rare occurrence. And like Brian said, that team just absolutely jived together. And it's worth noting too, that there were no like household name players on that team except Marc-Andre Fleury. Truly, I mean, he was the ultimate household name on that team.
I mean, other than that, they had James Neal, who was at the end of his career.
Right.
Shea Theodore, they got from Anaheim. When they got him, I'm like, he's going to be really good. And lo and behold, he's probably their best defenseman now. But yeah, they really didn't have any household names. Maybe Marchessault and Riley Smith, too. They had just both come off of good seasons with Florida. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think anybody expected William Karlsson, who was like a third liner on Columbus, to come in and score 40 goals his first year there. Everything they did kind of, blew the roof off the building. And for Vegas, they really never slowed down. They had just the 1 year where they missed the playoffs, and every other year has been a pretty solid playoff run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But back to Seattle and the question, I think overall there's nothing to be ashamed of. I think they've performed they've progressed, generally speaking, pretty well since their first season. So, and I mean, you still made the playoffs within your first 3 seasons. Nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, knocked off a defending Stanley Cup champion. Were 1 win away from the conference final.
Yeah.
So, which I think if they would have made the conference final, I think they would have had a tough go of it against Vegas, but pretty much everybody did. So, no, I think Seattle's doing things the right way. They're not selling the farm to try and, squeeze 2 playoff games out to get the extra revenue. They're doing this the right way. They're just going with it. I think Joey Daccord again is going to be the future and net there for them. And as they continue to solidify their top end talent, I think 2-3 years from now, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. And I wouldn't want to be playing them in the playoffs when they get to their, peak contending point.
Absolutely. And if that's a team that ever goes to the Stanley Cup final, that's going to be
that's a
hell
lot
of a place. Yeah, man. That's a great venue for the final, man, and a great city for it as well. I would love to watch a series there. So,
yep.
The third question we have, and the last one, unless there were some that came in the last, since we started recording, in which case I'm not going to check right now, is, are there any teams that are currently in a playoff spot that you think will not make the playoffs? And my answer is yes, but I want to hear who you think first.
Let me pull up the standings real quick and look at wild card teams that are in a playoff spot that I think will fall out. Yeah, I
Uh,
got
I was gonna say I don't even need to look. I already know who mine is.
I got I got two actually that I think are gonna fall off. Who are yours?
The one that I'm just leading on heavily right now, based off of recent events, is Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Detroit 100%. I want to point out, I hope that they don't. I want them to make the playoffs. I miss seeing Detroit in the playoffs. You know, we were fortunate enough to see that team go 26 years in the playoffs. I mean, that's an NHL record. 26 consecutive years.
That's not an NHL record. Bruins had 29.
I thought
Bruins hold the North American sports record for most consecutive years in the playoffs, 29 years in a row.
Yeah, and look how many Stanley Cups we have. So
What I think they got two during that point, during that run, and those were the two in the 70s.
Yeah, yippee. So speaking of 70s hockey, I do have an announcement at the end of this, but I'll wait till we're done. Go ahead with your teams.
I think Detroit's going to be my big one too. They've just been a mess since the All-Star break, but since the start of this month. They won one game this month.
Yep,
and it was after we talked about them on the Sunday show, they went out Sunday night and got absolutely shellacked again. So all the nice things we said were completely undone in one game.
Yeah, and then they barely squeaked out an overtime win against Columbus last night. So
I also want to say I think the wheels are falling off the wagon in Philly. I would not be surprised with how much Washington and the Islanders have kind of bounced back. I would not be surprised to see one of them squeak in and knock Philly off of that third Metro spot.
I was going to say, if I had to pick another one, I would probably say Philly. One thing I want to add, though, and I'm not too worried about it, but Vegas better be careful. Minnesota's right behind them. Minnesota's only 3 points behind them in the standings. So,
yep. If they win tonight, they're only one. And in that same note, LA needs to be careful too, because Vegas is hot on their heels and could knock them out of that third Pacific spot. So Minnesota's breathing down their necks. And obviously, as a fan of the team, I hope one of them falters so the Wild can make it. But because of the point difference and because LA and Vegas both have games in hand and the fact that they are on paper really good teams, I can't see a situation where one of the two of them falls off, but I'm certainly hoping it happens.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from being a fan of the Wild, but I mean, anything can happen, man. And, you know, the Wild have Kaprizov, and that guy, dude, he's one of the best players in the league right now too. I don't care what anybody.
He's on a tear lately, but they're still dealing with Eriksson X injury. They might be losing Brodin for a couple games. It sounds like he avoided an ACL injury in last night's game, which is good. He's having an MRI to see the extent, but doesn't sound like he's got any kind of tears. But again, they're missing their best center. They might lose their best defenseman or second best, depending how you view it. But like I said, between that and the fact that Vegas and LA are both good enough teams, I just don't see a situation where one of them falls off. But if either of them do, I'm going to actually say Vegas because they haven't had the goaltending lately. Mark Stone's still out. Something's just missing there lately. They just don't have that magic that they've always had about them. So if either of them fall off, I'm going to say it's going to be Vegas.
All right, that's fair. I don't disagree with you, so that's pretty good. Hold on, excuse me. I'm changing out my beer. And for those of you wondering, what beer am I drinking? My go-to beer of choice is whoever wants to give us money. So that's what I'm drinking.
There you are. All right. So now that you had your birthday beer, what is your big news? I know it. Why don't you let our people know it?
I was going to say, I did make an announcement on my personal Facebook. I did not do it on anything official for Fresh Ice yet. But in an upcoming episode in the near future, we're still trying to work out which episode it's going to be. We have landed our first retired NHL guest on the show. It's going to be a gentleman by the name of Derek Smith. He is a retired NHL forward. He played from 1974 to 1984 when he retired. He started his career with the Buffalo Sabres, who drafted him. And he played with them from 1974 to 1982 when he got traded to the Detroit Red Wings, where he played until he retired in 1984. I've been speaking with him this week on social media. I just happened to stumble across him because I'm a Monster season ticket holder, and he was looking to attend a Monsters game and happened to message me. So he will be on the show in the very near future. He's a pretty cool guy. I've been talking to him, super nice. We're really excited about it, and we're gonna have a lot of questions for him. So when that day comes for that episode, that's one you're not gonna want to miss. It's gonna be a good episode, and we might have to try and get Ben Polacco on for that episode too.
Yeah, we need to get Ben back on here, definitely. Like I've said it a million times, when we do our playoff preview show, we're going to have him back on because we absolutely need to.
Oh, he wants to come back, so no worries there.
I'll tell him to stop being a responsible adult and come hang out with the boys for some hockey talk.
Yeah, man. I'll get in touch with him here very soon, and we'll see what we got going on. But I want to make sure that we get the show set up with Derek first.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. So that should be a really good episode. I'm really excited about it.
All right. Well, with that, Andrew, happy birthday, buddy. Go enjoy it. Celebrate with your wife. Have an awesome night. And for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. Thank you, as always, to Xenopucks for sponsoring our show. Don't forget to send us those questions. Leave them in the YouTube comments or email them to us. Contact@FreshIceHockeyPodcast.com. We'll see you guys on Sunday.
Take care and comb your hair.